Last video we left off refactoring our error messages into this pretty little enum you see here called error message, right? And we left off with this being like the old way to do things. And by old way, I mean before the result type was introduced in Swift 5. And remember, I said I wanted you to see the old way because many code bases out there probably haven't adapted the new result type quite yet, so you still may see this. But from here on out, we're going to do it the new way using Swift 5's result. So as a quick overview, throwing the result type up on the screen here, it's basically an enum that returns two cases, a success case and a failure case. And the success case can have a generic, which is any type. It's called success, but it can be, like, for example, with us, it's going to be our array of followers. In our other network call, it's going to be our user object. So that's kind of the value that you want. Whereas the error message that you return in the failure case has to conform to Swift's error type. That's kind of the only caveat there, and we're going to handle that. So now that you see like what it is, let's talk about the value and what this does for us. And it really boils down here to line 18, what we're kind of returning from our closure. You see here we have our array of followers, which is an optional, and then our error messages, which is an optional. In this, and in our completion handler here on line 22, you see we have to either pass in nil or a value. And right, we're kind of flipping back and forth, right? Like if the array of followers is nil, then we pass in an error message. If the error message is nil, then we pass in an array of followers, right? But we're dealing with two optionals. So that's where the value of result comes in, is because in this case, right, there's like actually four situations you have to handle, right? Because the two optionals, in theory, they both could come back nil, or they both could come back with a value, and then the situation where one has a value, one doesn't have a value, and vice versa. So by both these being optionals, it's kind of confusing because you have to handle four cases, whereas really, like, there's only two cases, right? Success or failure, and that's what the result type sends you. So let me demonstrate that at our call site here in the follower list VC. Again, real quick, this is messy in the view did load. Once we do this for real, we'll structure the code correctly. But again, so you see at the call site, we're getting this followers array and this error message array, and these are both optionals. And how we're doing it right now is kind of cheating a little bit, right? We're checking to see if we have followers, right? Garlet followers equals followers. And we're just assuming that if we have followers, we know, or I'm sorry, if we don't have followers, we know we're going to have an error message, right? We're just assuming that error message is going to be there. And here we are. You see, we're force unwrapping that based on that assumption. As you can kind of tell, that might be a little dangerous, right? You never know. Maybe followers will come back nil and error message will come back nil. And now you'll get a crash. So you can see kind of the danger here. And again, the result type solves this by just, instead of getting back an array of followers or an error message, you're just going to get back one result type. And that result type is going to have a success case and a failure case, like you see here, again, up on the screen. So it makes the call site a lot less ambiguous, and you're going to see that. We're going to start implementing it right now, and you're going to see the benefits of it. So the first thing we're going to do is go to our error message, because remember, again, putting the result type back up here, our failure case has to have an error, and it just has to conform to the error protocol. So back to our error message, we have error message. Remember, this is the raw value that is a string. You can also make it conform to a protocol by doing comma error. So now it's conforming to the error protocol. And I like to rename this real quick too, because error message kind of insinuates that it is just the string, but we want this to be the GF error. I think that's a better name. So we're going to call it GF error, and it has a raw value of a string, and it does conform to Swift's error protocol. So now we can use it in the result type. So now that we have our error taken care of, let's go back to our network manager. And here in our get followers, remember now instead of returning the follower array and error message, we're going to implement the result type. So you type result. See, you get the autocomplete. And then these angle brackets indicate that it takes in a generic. And the generic is going to be, takes in two things. So this is actually very similar to what we have here, but you'll see at the call site, it's much simpler. So again, the value or success case that we want is going to be an array of followers. Just like we had before. And then comma, it's going to be a GF error. And I have too many brackets over here. So, and that's not a bracket either. Okay, so I typed that out a little weird, but you get it. So again, very, very similar. Again, you have to say this is going to return a result, and it's going to have an array of followers and a GF error. And again, we can use GF error because it does conform to the Swift error protocol. If you do see this in other code bases, you may just see error. Like that's fine too, that you just get the default error. But as you saw, we made our own custom error with GF error. So as you see, Xcode's yelling at me, extra argument in call, extra argument in call. So basically our completed is messed up now, because remember we used to be sending back either a follower or the error message. Now we're just going to send back a case of the result type. So we have to adjust all of our completeds in each of these scenarios. And it's really, again, it's really similar. So our network call isn't going to change too much. Again, you see the benefits at the call site. So again, completed, and then now you pass in .failure, and then the error we're going to pass in is .invalid username. Now remember, this is .failure because this is when a URL comes back like nil, right? The URL didn't work. So instead of passing nil for the followers and then passing the error message, you're just saying, hey, this is the failure case, and then here's the error that I want to attach to that failure case, the invalid username that we're passing through. So again, very similar. Completed. Again, this is a .failure, and then GF error is .unable to complete. So like I said, the network call error is not too much different. .failure, .unable to complete, and got to make sure I get these parentheses here. Careful of that. So same thing down here. Failure. And then .invalid data, cool, parentheses. And then here's where we're actually gonna pass in the success, right? This is when it happens. So again, what we're doing is we're getting rid of like all the optionals. So when we get to our call site, we don't have to deal with optionals. And so completed .success, right? And you see in the autocomplete, our success case is an array of followers, right? You get the autocomplete there. And that knows that because we declared that up here, that it needs an array of followers. So again, we're going to pass in the followers that, remember, we got here on line 46 from our decoder. And then same thing down here, .failure, and it's .invalid data, the one that we want to pass through. So our network call is all up to date. Let me do a Command B, build failed. Oh, I forgot a parentheses up here. Yeah, the way I was doing it led to some parentheses error, but that's fine. Xcode will let you know. Man. Oh, we got to build failed because our call site is messed up, but that's fine. I want to stick here for a second and review our network call. So again, where our completion handler is returning a result type now instead of the array of followers or the error. And then we just adjusted all of our completion handlers to showcase that, where we're passing in either the failure case or down here the success case when we actually get it. So now let's go adjust the call site here on the follower list screen. This is where our error is. Basically, it's saying like we don't need this. So now I can get rid of these two, and now this is where it gets simplified, and you can see that instead of getting either an optional followers and an optional error message, I just get back a result, not with a capital R, with a lowercase r, and that's me naming that myself. And actually, you know what? That's just me editing the current one. Let me actually type it out so you can see the autocomplete. So you can see like what it would look like if you did this from the start. .get followers, and you can see for string username page 1, and then now you can see I'm getting back a result type in the autocomplete that has a follower or an error. So if you would hit enter there, and then you would just name that result. So at the end of the day, you get the same thing I ended up with here, but I wanted to spell it out for you. So let's delete that. Get back to our code here. So now that we have this result, which is, again, it's a enum with either a success case or a failure case, we need to use a switch statement to handle the success or the error. So let's do that down here in our code. I'm going to make a lot of space because this is like our new code up here. So again, this is us just testing this out. This whole get followers method is going to be refactored, abstracted. It'll look nice in later videos. This is us just testing things and getting the refactor working. I just want to reiterate. For example, there'll be weak cell for, captureless and all that stuff. But again, I always compare it to like a workshop. Like if I was building a wood chair in like a wood shop, while I'm building the chair, the workshop's messy, there's sawdust all over the place, right? Like that's what I compare like this stuff to. It's like I'm working in my workshop, there's sawdust everywhere, it's messy. By the end of it though, we're gonna have a nice, clean, polished chair, but don't judge me on my messiness. So anyway, we need to switch the result here. So switch result, and then the two cases for result are case.success, and then you do let followers, because that's what it returns, right? The success case returns an array of followers. So that gives us access to that as a constant. I don't know why I always misspell followers. And then the other case.failure. And then the error, again, let error, because that's what we want. So actually we need some colons after this. And then down here, this self-present GF alert, right? That's what we did when there was an error. So we don't need to like put it in a guardlet to make sure we have a follower value. So we're going to cut this out here, paste that in here. And as you see, there's a bunch of errors here going on right now, but instead of error message, we no longer have an error message, but we do have access to this error that we declared right here. So instead of error message.raw value, it's going to be error.raw value. And remember, the error we're passing through here back to our network manager is either the invalid username, unable to complete, And then, as you remember, when we go back to raw value, this is the string it yanks out from the raw value. So back to our follower list. So we have our failure case taken care of. Our success case is we're just going to do what we did here. Print followers, and we can delete all this. Now, of course, that's what we're doing in the success case right now. Once we actually start building our collection view and everything like that, the success case is going to be where we set our array of followers to our retrieve followers. We'll configure our collection view. We'll do all that stuff. There's obviously going to be a lot more in the success case once we actually start building this. But I wanted to showcase now with the call site using Swift5's result, you can see how much cleaner it is. And I also feel like it's more straightforward, right? You don't have to like decipher the guardlets, the iflets, like what are you unwrapping? What's the success case? You have it very clear here. Hey, if it was successful, do all the stuff with the followers, which again is going to be configuring the collection view, all that stuff. If it fails, present the alert. This reads so much cleaner than the previous one. And again, it's very straightforward, easy to understand. You're not dealing with optionals. So this is the new Swift 5 way to do it using the result type. And again, just to reiterate, remember before we had a array of followers that was an optional and an error message that was an optional, and you have to do the unwrapping dance. No more. Super simple, super straightforward. That is the result type. That's what we're going to use with our future network calls going forward. So now you know how to do modern Swift. On to the next video.